It's 27 degrees here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Today is February the 10th, 2025. I know some people are counting down to February 14, but hey, to every man his own. Welcome to the show.
Indeed, every man and every woman. Well, I did highlight the temperature. I mean, if you know what Ayo is counting down to, well, good for you. But this morning, that's the one we're focused on. I know that, interestingly, Ayo, that day happens to be a Friday. So, I mean, what a countdown is going to be. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then it's the weekend. Anyways, this is...
Well, unfortunately, some people are still... At the moment they count down to, from that very 14th, there's another countdown to some months further down. I don't want to go there right now. So you were saying?
Not to you, Ayo. But let us go all the way now to Gombi, local government area of Adamawa State. I did highlight that the temperature here in Abuja is 27 degrees. But guess what? It's 22 degrees in this very sleepy town of Gombi. The local government area, which recently got a new emir. In recent times, it does appear that the government of the state has been given, new leadership to different areas of the state. And so we have had the opportunity to visit some of these areas and take a look at this town. I mean, quite a picturesque town. And look at the hills right there, very organized. It seems to be organized along quarters and in little bits and little boxes. It's quite a sight to behold, really. I kind of think it'll be fun to visit. It is the dry season now, and I think that for northern states, it's very you have to appreciate the beauty that the dry season brings, but do not let it fool you, because in the rainy season, a lot of states in the north, dry as they might look right now, do become quite green and very lush in the rainy season. And I imagine that this particular community will not be an exception. Ayo.
The first thing that came to my mind, you're going to hate me for this, Mark, but the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this picture is a comparison of sorts. Twice, well, in recent time, we've had to take a skyline of Ibadan and some parts of Ogun State. Most of the roofs are brown. And looking at this, I'm looking for a brown roof. Really, I am actively looking for a brown roof, and I can't quite find one yet. So maybe for whatever it's worth, it's because of the dry season that you talked about. I don't know, but it is indeed a beautiful city, and of course a beautiful place, Gombi, local government area, and of course a very historic one. Dates back way before the colonial era in Nigeria, and with its rich cultural diversity, hosting communities like the Magi, the Fulani, the Hausa, the Hona. We understand that the diversity has contributed a lot to its rich cultural tapestry, including its languages, its traditions, its festivals, and all of those things. Not, of course, forgetting the fact that it's also, had its own significant security challenges over time. But to have it still kept its beauty, its lushness, its organization that you highlighted, Maokwe, in spite of all of those challenges, I think it is something to highlight and praise the people of this community for, Maokwe.
Well, for the later part of what you were talking about, I lost you for a bit. But one of the things it does appear is that Gombi is also home to illustrious women in Adamawa State. But let's not get too excited now and, move on to something which we have tried to highlight on Channels Television, and we've taken it upon ourselves as a corporate social responsibility alongside the national orientation agency, to let people know the dangers around the scooping of petrol whenever it is that a tanker torpedoes or, capsizes. I don't know why I can't seem to find the appropriate word, but, capsizes might be, even though we're not on the sea now, but when you see a whole tanker upside down, I'm trying to find another word for it. But then you see this situation where people do not seem to learn anything, from what has happened in other areas. And you're wondering, how many more disasters must happen before people learn? How many more incidences, how many more tragedies must we record as a country before people learn? Now, I must say something. We have highlighted the fact that when this sort of thing occurs, what anyone should do is run. The people who are filming, they ought to run, and not run towards where the spill has occurred. Run away from it. So if there is a spill, even the person who's filming is at risk, while the person who wants to show what people are doing, and it seems like he's far away, he's on the other side of the road. When an explosion occurs, it will not identify the fact that it's on the other side of the road. But Ayo, this is what we're seeing this morning. Yesterday in Niger State, we were told that another explosion occurred in Niger State. This time around, I think with a gas tanker, a tanker carrying gas. Thankfully, from what we heard, no life was lost. But properties worth millions of naira were destroyed. And now we're seeing this particular one. This is a visual we got off social media, showing this particular situation in Onitsha, somewhere in the southeast of Nigeria. And this is what people are still doing, in spite of all of the disasters, in spite of all of the tragedies that we've recorded, at least in last year and also this year in Niger State.
Mark, the question you asked is very, very poignant. How many of these have to happen before people learn? I think the first measure of learning is from the depot. Why would whatever it is that is making these things fall off, why would it happen? Secondly, there is a particular driver. The drivers are very, very audacious sometimes when they have to make certain turns in a particular place. I saw on the news at 10 yesterday. Please go ahead and watch that news at 10 if you may. And you will see a report by Lanre Idowu where he chronicled, one of our guests there, one of the people he spoke to, chronicled the process through which these things happen. And someone said, look, if these things are not nipped in the bud, there is no way we will not continue to have this kind of situation. Now, you talked about the loss of infrastructure, you talk about loss of investments, and rightly so. Because yes, and no doubt about it, extremely important. The loss of lives is also very, very important. But there are some other people whose livelihoods are connected to the business that loses investment when these things happen. Now, you talked about what Channels Television did to at least inform people. I think it's a good place for us to let people see that video again that Channels Television made in partnership with the Nigerian. Look at it. Just look at it. Listen to it all over again so you know what to do.
Everywhere. No stay there, they think this life no gets duplicates. Make yourself fit live. No go throw away your life for meaningless fuel scooping drama. No now. Try get sense. Make you use your head though.
When a tanker bearing fuel falls or an underground pipe bearing fuel bursts, what do? Scooping fuel in your bucket or running far away from impending fire? You have a few seconds to take the wisest decision. Walk away? No, that is not enough. Shift? No, that is not enough. Stay there and gist and take shots with your phone? That is madness. Run. Yes, run away. Yes, your life depends on your action. The flames come suddenly, unexpected, but uncontrollable. Why? Fuel is highly inflammable. Why? It just requires a spark to set off a ravaging inferno. So, don't stay there to think. Storm away to live. Do not throw away your life in anguish for meaningless fuel siphoning. Be advised.
If looking at this, I wonder why anyone would still imagine that it makes sense to do anything else. Mark, every morning you talk about the weather, how hot it is, how cold it is in different parts of the country, particularly in Lagos and in Abuja. And you've talked about the weather and the temperature of the environment in Gombi local government this morning. Yet people will hear or know that it's going to get really hot. And there is, God forbid, an accident such as the one we are highlighting now. And guess what? People still stand around there. For the life of me, this is not about poverty. This is sheer, as that commercial says, madness. And it's only better that we advise ourselves before we advise anyone else. Your life is more important,
Indeed.
more worth it a lot more than anything you will ever scoop from that place.
Indeed, Ayo, when you talk about poverty, you know, people always think it's about money. It's not always about money. When you engage in an act like this, it's more about poverty of the mind.
Yeah.
So I want people to get wise. People need to get wise and start to fill their minds with rich. Because even people who are wealthy, people who, they always, when you talk to wealth experts, they'll tell you that, you know, wealth starts from the mind.
Yeah.
If you see yourself as poor, you continue to be poor. If you see yourself as wealthy, then you try to now start finding ways to be wealthy. And that always has to start from the mind. So
absolutely,
people who engage in acts like this need to be taught that, you know, this is not going to get you anywhere. This is actually putting your life in untold danger. But I hope that, you know, the authorities, because we understand this is in Anambra State, that we will not wait to hear another disaster. If this was filmed yesterday, that, you know, the authorities would have, you know, swooped into action and found ways to see how they can stop people or, you know, to neutralize the fuel in such a way that it is less flammable than it actually is. So I'm actually hoping that, you know, something will be done. I see a few people running, but generally it seems like a few people were running towards the area to go and scoop, and I'm hoping that people will get some sense. But Ayo, I mean, quite a lot to look through this morning, quite a lot to consider while we wait to get response from the authorities in Anambra State who can confirm this incident and if they have been able to cordon it off. But in the meantime, we will take a break at this point and we will come back to the issues that we have for you today. Please stay with us. Well, we're starting off with something that is outside our shores, really, but, you know, concerns us, and that is U.S.-Nigeria relations. One of the areas where people notice when, you know, there is a softening of relationships between countries such as the United States and Nigeria, or smoothing of relationship, is with the ease that citizens of both countries, you know, especially when it comes to bilateral relations, can access each other's countries. And it does appear that now, for those who, you know, used to use the Dropbox service, which was a service previously available to Nigerians who apply for American visas without in-person interviews, a system that you could use if you had gone before, particularly if you had been to the U.S. before. You didn't have to go back to the embassy, you know, to do another interview to renew your visa. It does appear that that option is now no longer on the table since the advent or since the coming into office of President Donald Trump. I mean, quite a number of issues have come up through his declarations. It does appear that it's having ripple effects across you know, different parts of the world, Nigeria inclusive. So this morning we're here to discuss this particular issue, and I have with me Honorable Ehizo Agbonayima, who is a former member of the House of Representatives and also a former chairman, U.S.-Nigeria Parliamentary Relations. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much, Ebankwe. Good morning to our viewers out there.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of Nigerians, I mean, if you ask them, they have mixed feelings. And really, someone will say, really, what's our business? But we know that when the United States coughs or sneezes, everyone catches a cold.
Yeah.
I mean, that has been the way of international relations. So right now, everyone has been looking, everyone watched the inauguration, listened to the inaugural speech, listened to what he had to say, was going to be, some of the, the highlights of his second coming. And I think it was a Nigerian professor, a very respected Nigerian professor, who said that was the worst inaugural speech he has heard. There are those who, that was his view. And there are those who actually think, well, when they heard the fact that, the United States now only recognizes two sexes, male and female. There were cheers for that, especially within Nigeria here, where we're still very, very conservative and traditional about, gender roles. But generally, it's been mixed. One thing I know, though, is that there is uncertainty in the air. Nobody really knows what next is coming to them. But we've seen quite a number of things. U.S. aid is now under scrutiny. It does appear that the agency is about to be scrapped. And so, for countries like us that usually get aid from U.S. aid, there are questions around there. But this one affects Nigerians, who normally want to visit the United States or have visited before. This system is no longer there for them. What are your own readings of Nigeria-U.S. relations, or what do you think it's going to be like under the administration of President Donald Trump?
Well, thank you very much, my sister Bankwe. I want to say this. Yes, when you have a new sheriff in town, everybody, we always want to put in place, something that they believe that can put the people first. And if you recall, Mr. President Donald Trump, throughout his campaign and his promises, he didn't make mention of, try to do all these things that people that are used to removing the issue of gender, that there's only two gender, male and female, that marriage is between a man and a woman, and talking about many other things of the executive order that he has issued. And I tell you, sincerely, some might be happy, some also, of course, are not happy. You know why. Some are not happy because this is not business as usual. If you see what has been, found with the support and the help of Elon Musk, it's mind-boggling. To me, the American taxpayers are very concerned, and that they never thought that, USAID involved in in-depth corruption. There's corruption all over the world, like I've often said. That yes, they've done well in some part in the area of HIV, medical supply, that they've tried to help other countries, even in Nigeria here. They've done some good, but majority, when you hear the kind of figures being called, that Elon Musk said that, look, this is out of the world. It's unacceptable, that where USAID are paying, people, different organizations, even terrorist group, paying people, paying LGBT, to promote LGBT, pay them millions and millions of dollars. And Americans are not, they are not aware about all this. That is surprising for them now to say, what? It means USAID have been doing this to the detriment to Americans. You go to America today, you see homeless across the United States of America. He said he was going to put the people first, America first. So I understand that, yes, the issue of the drop balls out of the visa, issuance. I just think that everybody have their own ways and means of governance. So if that is what he wants to do to streamline, that does not stop giving visa to Nigerians. You still have opportunity to go and apply. There's a new order now in a process that the U.S. Embassy have already put in place, which is, if you Google and then go online, you see what they're talking about. If you have the genuine document, you are applying, and if you are going there for visit, yes, you have the right to visit. But just because they are stopping the drop balls, that have not changed anything. But all I'm saying is that he wants to put America first, and so at the end of the day, you begin to wonder that billions, if you're saying that over $40 billion been expended by USAID, and majority of this money we're giving to those that doesn't need it. And this is disheartening. This is corruption in the highest order.
There are two different things, this issue of USAID and, Dropbox, visa Dropbox. For you, what does this signal in terms of U.S.-Nigeria relations? Do you think that this will, because what normally this is supposed to do is facilitate movement, between two countries, especially for Nigerians who, before now, some of them have been to the United States, they've visited, some of them even have things that they're doing. Some of them are students, people are going abroad maybe for medical reasons, maybe they have family members there. And we have quite a significant Nigerian community. I mean, that's the only reason why someone like you in the first place will be, we're heading the U.S.-Nigeria parliamentary relations. I mean, it's because there is a significant number of Nigerians in the U.S. who are doing amazingly well. So do you think that this eases the relations that we have with the United States?
I think that I'm praying that the relationship between Nigeria and America, at least, is brought to bear, and where, things of the old, that what we used to see, good things, better things, greater things are coming to Nigeria, and good things are also going back to America. All I'm saying is that, first of all, we Nigerians, we must take care of our home. I remember many years ago when I went to, the first time going to America, I know how much I went with, less than 7,000 naira. When I went to change it at the downtown then, I was giving almost $15,000, talking about in the 80s. So what has gone wrong that Nigeria's money is not even accepted in Ghana? So I think there are things we need to put in place in our dear nation, because I love this country, Nigeria, but we don't expect America to be the one that will help us here. Just American-Nigerian relationship should be, paramount, because we have a lot of Nigerians, like you rightly said, they have done well, they have excelled in all ramifications, that are doing well. Even in Donald Trump's campaign, I saw a lot of Nigerians that were highly involved till tomorrow, who are very close to him. So I'll be talking to some just came and left. We've had so many discussions that I'm saying, but with the good thing that I would say that Mr. President Donald Trump have laid on the table, I think Nigeria should be able to tap from the positive area. There are some positive things that he have laid on the table, even though everybody don't like what he's doing. But for me, I think... What don't they like? Can you highlight what they don't like? Oh, they said, they have said so many things, negative things about him. Oh, he's a racist, he's this, he's that. But some of us that have had the opportunity to sit down with him many years ago, he's not a racist. I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. It's always bad to just paint somebody, give somebody a bad name. Donald Trump is not a racist. And by the way, in Nigeria, is married to one of the daughters. Yes. In Nigeria, married to one of the daughters. So, why are we so, quick in giving people, painting people bad
You're about to highlight...
Donald Trump is better than most former presidents that have governed America. Yes. Yes, I'm saying this. So, let me say this. The reason why I'm saying is that when I was in the House as chairman of the U.S. Parliamentary Relations, Donald Trump was president then. He was the only one who could help Nigeria to support in fighting the menace of Boko Haram, the terrorists that have been tormenting Nigeria. No, not even Obama or Biden could approve for Nigeria to be able to acquire arms. In the history, no one, Obama even as many African Nigerians that supported him, he never cared for Nigeria. Only Donald Trump. He received the former President Buhari in the White House. I was on this channel when you interviewed me when Buhari was in the White House. I tell you, it was Donald Trump, the Leahy Law at the Congress, it was Donald Trump that turned it and approved Nigeria to be able to purchase arms. It started from the 12 Tucanos that was purchased by Nigeria. So if we are saying that having good relationship, I believe that he loved Nigeria. He loved Nigeria. He does want Nigeria. He wants us to do the right things to fight corruption, because corruption is our major problem.
Mr. Gwanayima, I don't think that love is the thrust of the conversation this morning, because really, nations...
It starts from love. You have to have an interest.
Nations,
have interest.
Exactly, now we're talking.
It does have interest. Nigeria...
That's the language of international relations. I don't think it's love. It's usually interest, Listen, how does it serve?
You love Nigeria. When I mean love Nigeria, this is a man who loves God. Who loves God. If you love God, that means you must love those people here on earth.
Okay, well,
I think that represent God here on earth. So what I'm saying, he loved Nigeria. So in that context, I'm saying he have so much interest about making sure that Nigeria is among the best country in the world.
Let me just quickly wrap this up. I mean, for someone like you who is also, about parliamentary relationships and how, this is about democracy. Part of the reason why the United States got very popular and very influential was that they had the marketing of democracy across the world. I mean, Nigeria copies its own democratic systems from the United States, where it wants the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary to have equal powers, and also to be able to check one another. For those, in watching across the world and looking at what is happening in the United States, they are concerned about democracy and what it's going to look like. For the Democrats who are currently in opposition, they are already beginning to say that what they're beginning to see, especially with what he's tried to do with the, the declarations that he's made, the executive orders as he's made, is try to erode some of their own powers. And they are saying that this is the beginning of a dictatorship. Do you think that, across the world, for those who are looking, especially at the big brotherly role that the United States has played in world affairs and how it has also upheld itself as an example of how democracy should work, are you concerned as a former parliamentarian that democracy could be at stake?
I think democracy is for the people, by the people, and for the people. Democracy, to me, is doing the right thing, putting the people first, helping the downtrodden, doing those things that will impact the ordinary people, like in Nigeria or in America. So democracy, for me, is making sure that there is light, water, good healthcare system, good educational system, good roads. That is democracy. It's about doing things that will impact whomever you are serving. You are talking about...
In other words, China has a democracy then?
They are helping their people. They are helping their people. America is helping his own people. So if America decides to have an kind of fellowship helping Nigeria, like the USAID, what they have done, but go back and look at what Elon Musk had found in talking about in-depth corruption. We had giving millions of dollars promoting LGBT, giving billions of naira, millions, giving to terrorist group. Nobody's talking about that. We should appreciate. And this is just the beginning. less than a month.
So you
will
will
be able
support.
to unveil,
let me just
criminality.
Get this. Let me get this.
Money. They are homeless all over.
Let me get this
money
straight.
that's supposed to be used.
Let me get this straight.
Taxpayers' money to be used.
Mr. Gwanaima, let me get this straight.
And you are not appreciating that.
Let me ask you: will you say then that, because you said corruption is everywhere, would you say then that it's okay to throw away the baby with the bathwater, or do you think that the USAID should be reformed, considering the good it has also done across the world?
They are not throwing the baby and the bathwater away at this time. What has just happened is that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, have taken the bull by the horn and saying, well, what we're going to do, let's move it to, State Department, which they have done. Let them do their job. Allow them to do their job. Let them do their investigation and see, not just only USAID. He has been given, Elon Musk was hired by Donald Trump. That's why, today is one of the top, got the top secret clearance, by United States government. So Elon Musk is now to go ahead to track other agencies, how money was expended. Don't forget that during Donald Trump campaign, he said that he was going to review budget spending line by line. And that is what he's doing, making sure that every penny, every dollar that is expended, at least must be used for the purpose, of course, it is meant for. Today, how can you give over $40 billion just like that, and for no reason, and nobody is speaking, and nobody's even saying, oh, thank you, Mr. Elon Musk, by using AI, intelligence, artificial intelligence, to be able to unearth things that could not be done. So you are clapping for corruption? Come on. So
Honorable, I can say that we will certainly, President Donald Trump has 4 years, and I think that the Americans are the ones that will eventually decide, how it is that he's fed. After all, it was the majority of people who, brought him into office.
What made you think that the majority of people voted for him? Have you thought about that?
Isn't that what the polls say?
It's not what the poll says. I said the majority of Americans, not only the popular vote, the electoral college vote, all of the above, all in his favor.
That's what I'm saying. They are the ones, whoever it is that...
But not only him, even you are speaking, Nigerians are speaking, people all over the world are speaking. You just said, when America cough, the whole world sneeze.
But, the biggest effect will be felt in the United States first.
That's very correct.
So we'll wait and see, 4 years, to deliver his promises to the American people who voted him into office. But we have to...
Do you believe...
Mr. Gwanaima, I'm afraid we're out of time. We cannot discuss this any further. Thank you so much. I was just trying to say that we have another 4 years, and I'm sure that there will be times within that 4 years that we certainly will catch up with you on happenings within the United States. We have to thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. Honorable Ehizoa Agbonayima is a former member of the House of Representatives and also heads the U.S.-Nigeria parliamentary system. He used to head that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, and God bless you.
Well, we'll take a break at this point, and we'll be back shortly to look at another matter. But this time around is going to be in Nigeria, as affects us and the educational system. Please stay with us.
According to the United International Child Education, Kano State has 989,234 out-of-school children, representing 32% of the primary school age population. Upon assumption of office, Governor Abu Yusuf declared a state of emergency on education in the state, and he's been driving the effort with various interventions.
You might recall that I recently declared a state of emergency in the education sector, which led to the construction of 336 new classrooms, renovation of 119 dilapidated classrooms, as well as provision of more than 53,652 three-seater desks and chairs as phase 1.
Saadatu Umar and her friends live in the Angwan Uko area of Kano State. She only attended the government girls' secondary school in the area alongside her friends. She desires to continue her education.
My future ambition is to become a medical lab scientist. I shall reach medical lab scientist because I want to save hundreds of Nigerian lives.
According to data from the annual school census in 2021, Kano has 7,048 primary schools, 1,148 junior secondary schools, and 813 senior secondary schools. The state government is not relenting in the effort to build new blocks of classrooms across the 44 local government areas of the state. Beyond the provision of these infrastructure, Kano State is one of the beneficiaries of the Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment, a World Bank-assisted project aimed at improving secondary education opportunities for adolescent girls.
Even before our inception, all these buses were down. But now, effort has been made. You see, even not all, but 80% of these buses are verified, and they are roaming about, picking girls from one place to another, so as to ease their movement to schools.
According to South African clergyman Bishop Desmond Tutu, if there's going to be real development in the world, then our best investment is women. This makes educating the girl child imperative for building the next generation. From Kano Commercial City, Nancy and Vincent, Channels Television News.
The girl-child education is one of the crucial issues we're looking at today, but you would remember that recently the world celebrated the World Education Day with a focus on what they call PLANE, Program for Learning and Networking for Education. We have two guests in our Kano studio this morning. Speaking with us, Bolaniwa Akinoluwa is Director, Akin Savvy Awareness and Initiative for Africans. He's also Regional Coordinator for Digital Literacy Program, a radio school with Community Aid Connect, along with Ladidi Sanefage, who is Secretary, High-Level Women Advocate for Kano State Government. Thank you for joining us this morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a ladies first, so let us take it that way. Madam, you, of course, a good number of issues raised in that report was from the Kano State Government. Between the time the governor made that promise and now, what would you say is the response of the community? Because to a large extent, a number of people would say it is one thing for the government to initiate ideas. It's another thing altogether for the community to embrace it. What's been the response of the community to the initiatives of the Kano State Government?
Thank you very much. As was said, I am the Secretary Hilwa. Hilwa means High-Level Women Advocates for Girls' Education. We have been working hands in hands with the state government immediately before the declaration and after declaration. Hilwa is a member that worked with the committee set up by the government on the recovery of education in Kano State. We are also working in collaboration with the SBMC, that is the state schools management committees. The communities in Kano State have been sensitized through and through with Hilwa and other stakeholders in the state to be part and parcel of the people to address the issues raised at the recovery conferences. And I'm happy to say that the state government led the issue by funding the CRCs. The CRCs are community-based committees set up at every local government in the state and every committee in the state to renovate the structural infrastructure across the state, to also provide furniture in the state, to also see to the structural decay that was established during the recovery conference. So the community also contributed and ensured that the children who were out of school were brought back to school because the schools had been renovated. And also the state agency for mass education, the adults, that is the non-formal sector of the education sector in the state, have also been funded and adequately been taken care of, and the communities are willing and they are coming up. You know, something that has taken place for a long time, it takes time to really put it in place. The communities were relaxed before, they were not responding, but now, because of the willingness, the political goodwill of the state, of the Kano state government, and other organizations like HILO and other stakeholders, we have been really sensitizing the communities, and the communities are coming to respond, you know, because the whole issue is to bring back the children to school, to ensure that the children, especially the girl child, is enrolled and have access to quality education.
Well, it's the beginning of days, madam. Yeah, my apologies. I think it's the beginning of days, a number of people would say to you now. But let me come to you, Mr. Akinlolua. You know, one of the many initiatives that a number of people would look at is, so on the one hand, is the initiative of government. On the other hand, is the embrace of the people. But most importantly would be the impact, the short, medium, and long-term impact of these initiatives, because the issue of out-of-school children, as you are not unaware of, has been with us for a very, very, very long time. So how do you see the initiatives of government moving the needle?
Okay, thank you for having me this morning. Following that trend, looking at the initiative that has been on ground, I know that there have been many efforts made by different stakeholders, by the government and other private individuals. But the reality is the initiatives are very good. And there's been an improvement on what is happening currently in Kano State at its way. Because so many hands are on deck. If you look at what is happening currently, where the state of emergency has been declared, you can see that every stakeholder in the education sector has been put into place, ranging from the mass literacy, which is the non-formal sector, and both from the formal sector. We can see the collaboration from the non-formal sector and the formal sector working together very closely now. And that's one of the things that needs to be strengthened very strongly, so that most of these initiatives can be sustained, because we understand that, okay, there are out of school and there are those that are already in school, and we're looking at the number of the out of school that are more. Now, one of the best options is, you see, we need to see how, as Ajab said, how we can do more orientation and awareness for the parents, because the parents have a major role to play in releasing their children.
Have we been able to, my apologies, maybe that's what you want to respond to, but have we been able to track why parents pull their children from school? Because it is one thing to initiate fantastic ideas, you would agree with me. It's another thing altogether for it to be sustained. Are they for cultural reasons? Are they for economic reasons? Are they for social reasons? Have we been able to track why the number of out-of-school children continues to rise?
Okay, you see, it has so many
dimensions,
so many perspectives to it. We are looking at, if you look at the economic structural perspective, it is there. If we look at the cultural perspective, it is there. If you look at norms, it is there. But but what is happening currently is that with orientation at the grassroots level, with understanding that is being given to the parent now, there is an enlightenment on the need for the fact that a child needs to be educated. Because compared to what it used to be before, currently I think there's more awareness at the grassroots level. One of the places that the initiative needs to do more on is concerning the issue of awareness to the parents, because parents need to be carried along. And if parents are not carried along, the child might be willing and to want to be in the class or want to be educated. But what about the angle of the parents? Because, okay, let's give an instance where a day we have a market day and the child wants to be in the class or wants to be in the form of any form of learning center, and the child or the parent said you have to go to the market to sell because of why? Because of their social economic background, because they need to feed the home and they need to sustain the home. But the fact is that if the parent can understand that this child's education is just for that a few hours, after those few hours the child will go back to the market and do what he wants to do before coming back to sell, I think they can encourage the child and see how they can manage that. But sometimes you will see passion from the angle of the children, where there is low understanding from that of the parent. And sometimes you will see where the parents have the zeal, but the child needs to be given a proper orientation on what to do. That is where the case of we encourage the issue of the non-formal sector, because sometimes a child feels as if being in the four wall of a classroom is like something that is a deterrent factor that limits him. He wants where education can be done at his own convenience. And that is why, like, bringing out the out-of-school children, the first point of call is the mass literacy platform, which is the informal sector, where the child can easily be absorbed because he has not been used to the normal classroom system. So the non-formal brings him in at the basic, where he's being taught the basic literacy. Before then, mainstream into the normal formal academic system. You see, that can give him a very soft landing. But when you just bring a child from his background, orientation, and just say, okay, move into the classroom immediately, there's going to be like a detach. He's going to look at the new people that he's meeting. Is he going to be intimidated by what is happening in the classroom? And look at the age factor. Look at the understanding that he has from the background.
It makes
non-formal sector.
Yes, my apologies. It makes the whole idea of education a little more complex. Let me come back to Madam. Madam, I'm not sure if you agree with Mr. Akinloluwa on this one, particularly at the time when the federal government is muting the idea of a 12-year basic education plan. So if we are having these current challenges, on the one hand, Madam, I think I'm gonna laden you with quite a lot in this one. Is this, if you agree with Mr. Akinloluwa, is this true for the entire North, or there are just certain sections? Because you talked about socio-cultural and socio-economic issues that affect the unstable number of out-of-school children. Coming at a time when the federal government is toying with the idea of a 12-year basic education plan, talk to us about whether or not this is true, this is right, this is the correct situation, and whether or not this 12-year basic education program the federal government is talking about is sustainable and can make impact.
You see, when we came in, I said I'm not very comfortable with this 12-year basic education 6334. Because this is what is wrong with the policy issue with Nigerian government. You have a policy in place, you start the policy, you haven't seen the proper impact of the policy, and you want to diverse and change to another policy before the people even begin to really understand and adapt to that policy. As regards the issue of dropout rate that is continuing to escalate, I think part of what he said is true. But then as a rider to what he has said, I think the socio-economic issue plays a very vital role in the dropout rate in the northern state. What happens in Kano affects many of the northern states, especially the northwest, northeast, and so on, because it's still the same issue. That is why when something is tried in Kano and it works, definitely it will work in many of the northern states. So the issues of dropout rates, socio-economic issue is part of it. The poverty level is what makes many of the parents to pull their children out of school, especially girls, to hawk or to go to houses and be housemaids. And another important issue is the issue of infrastructural development in our schools. You go to a school, you find that many of the basic facilities are lacking, especially the sanitation, water, and hygiene facilities in the school. For girls, the sanitation, the wash facilities in schools are very crucial. Some of them, they cannot be in school when they have their normal menstrual cycle, you know, without these basic facilities. If a girl misses school for 5 days or 6 days every month, there is tendency for her to lose interest in the school, and that affects the dropout rates. Many of them will not want to come to school. And another issue is the safety of the school, the safeguarding issue in our schools. Many of the girls, particularly, are abused in different forms in our schools, and that also affects the attendance and the retention of girls in schools. So we need to look at all this perspective to address the issues of barriers to this girls' education and also to education generally.
So how do
him that the non-formal sector should really be addressed. The non-formal sector should be enhanced, should be developed to incorporate girls that are out of school as well as also boys that are out of school. Because if we don't attend the non-formal sectors and address it properly, we are going to continue to have large number of our children that are out of school.
In addressing that issue, madam, let me ask Mr. Akinoluwa, do you see the local governments being able to play, the local government councils or governments being able to do anything significant to curb this trend? After all, now, according to the Supreme Court, they also have certain responsibilities about education, don't you think so? Shouldn't they be able to do something definite and strategic to keep the children, you know, in school one way or the other?
Yeah, I think for the local government, they have a very strong role to play, a very strong role. Because at every local government, there is a social development welfare. And education is one of the key points in their budget. Looking at health, then the next thing is education. And they have that funding at the local level. And they have a very strong role to be able to play, because if they invest more in the education, it has a very wider effect. Because if it is broken down to local government by local government, I think that can help us. Reason, let me give you another reason. Another reason being that, because at some local government, when we talk about infrastructure, everything being capitalized at the center, sometimes it gets difficult to get down to the local government. But when the local government infrastructure is being in place, that's where you see more of community participation. That's where you see people taking ownership from the grassroots. That's where you see both the local governments, SBMC, CBMC, and all that stakeholders that exist in that place take ownership, and there will be going to be a demand for accountability at the grassroots.
But then does that absolve, because we know that there are LEDs at the various local government administration levels all across every local government in the country, isn't that? So
Yes.
if we are going by what Madam said earlier, have we been able to review the soft infrastructure and hard infrastructure that make them run or not? Because if they were as functional as they should be, I don't think we will have the number of out-of-school children that we have. What do you think?
Exactly.
Okay, we understand that there are lapses around that side, because there are no system without its own lapses. There are lapses around that side. That is why, like when we look about the local government autonomy, it's quite interesting to look at, and it's another opportunity for us to be able to tailor down and see how we can take advantage of what is going to happen. It is not everything that is just happening, we just fold our hands like it's not going to have a positive outcome. This is another opportunity for the locals to look at what is supposed to exist in their local government, what is already existing that needs to be strengthened. But you know, in Nigeria generally, the mindset has to change that whatever is meant for government is a public affair. Why can't it's meant for us? It's not just for
again
a set of individuals.
Mr. Akinolu, I think that's part of the advocacy of Madam Sanifage earlier, where she was talking about advocacy, you know, informing and educating people on the increase. Well, you know, it's a lot of conversation that I hope we'll take on subsequently going forward. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Bolarinwa Akinoluwa is Director of Akinsavi Awareness and Initiative for Africans. And right there beside him is Adidi Sanifage, who is Secretary, High-Level Women Advocate for Kano State Government. Thank you so much, madam and gentlemen, for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Well, there is more on this program. After Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, there is another subsequent conversation coming on, especially in the light of all of the security concerns we get sometimes. In the meantime, let's go for Business Morning on Sunrise Daily.
The bandits are now on the run, but the military will not rest on their oars until we end this thing. And the president has given us marching order to end insecurity in every part of our country by end of this year. And the Chief of Defense Staff, the NSA, and indeed their own team are working day and night to actualize that target. And as you have seen, we are putting pressure in almost all the theaters of operation. And indeed, mining activities has been lifted in Zamfara already. And this is part of the reason we are meeting today, to look at all areas where you have serious issues of security, and to see how best we can secure those areas so that Nigeria will continue to make money out of what we have.
Yes, indeed, we still have many challenges confronting us, and security is one of the areas where we're facing challenges. Well, we're discussing the latest, given the mandate that has been given to the Ministry of Defense. You just heard the Minister of Defense there, Laji Badaru, talking about the mandate that has been given to them by the president to see how they can end banditry, or just to end banditry, and make sure that people in different parts of the country, particularly the northern part of the country, have access, can move freely and have access to their farms. Well, we have this morning to discuss how it is that we can actually improve security and what steps have been taken so far. What is working, what isn't? We have with us Mr. Mike Ejiofor, who is a former director with the Department of State Services. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is where we are now. It does appear that there is some progress. The military has been talking about how they're making progress. If you also ask, other arms of other apparatus of security, they will also say that there seems to be some progress. But the concerns remain. And in many instances, progress is not new. What is worrisome for us has been sustaining the progress that we have made, making sure that we do not retrogress, so to speak. So for you, where would you say that we have, the areas of strength that we have, and where would you say we need to strengthen?
Well, I think I'm an optimist. I believe very strongly
strongly in Nigeria. And when the minister, based on the president directive, is saying we'll have a timeline by the end of the year, all this is a cheering news. But I don't see how that will be achieved immediately, because this war has been on for a very long time, if you recall, and we've been trying to overcome it. Granted, conceding too that we've made substantial progress. If you look at when we started, you were seeing bombs going up in Abuja, going up in UN House. You remember Madala case, and all these ones are no more. They were virtually restricted to the Northeast. Then when the war on the Northeast also was being won, these people scattered again and went to Central and Northwest. So that's what we are contending with this new group of Lokarawa and all these things. But I believe that with the new men in helm of affairs, like the Chief of Defense Staff, the NSA, the DGSS, the Chief of Army Staff, the IG Police, all of them working together, I consider synergy. So I think that's why we are perhaps achieving the results we were getting. But beyond that, I think we should get people more involved. Citizen participation, a whole society concept. We should not leave it just to the military to begin to fight, because this is beyond kinetic approach. Government should go beyond the kinetic approach and employ a non-kinetic approach, like facilitating job opportunities, reintegrating people who have been de-radicalized, get some people, look at those areas of discontent, within the society and try to address them. So those are the issues. So on citizen participation, and I also believe that I'm the president of the Alumni Association of National Institute for Security Studies, which of course, is made up of both serving and retired officers, both retired and some management level. So as part of our contribution, we're also trying to see what we can do to support government by getting a seminar, a maiden lecture, where major stakeholders will be involved, to get them and say, look, what is the way forward? It is curbing insecurity in Nigeria, a practical approach. And we'll have major stakeholders. The NSA is going to be there as the special guest of honor. We'll have the Chief of Defense Staff as the chairman of the occasion, and the Inspector General of Police. The chief host is the DGSSS. And you can see that we've carefully selected the stakeholders. We'll have people, civil society organizations, security practitioners. Let us sit down and see how do we bring out solutions to our problems, because it's been festering and it needs to be addressed.
Well, we have been having all these ideas around solutions. The question is, what has been, stopping us from implementing the ideas that we have had? Why do you think that previous ideas we have had, because I'm sure there have been many conferences on security. What exactly is the barrier from, the ideas and the resolutions that come out of this to implementation?
Yeah, talking honestly, we are not lacking in the solutions to our problems. We are not, So several seminars have been held. You've seen a lot of white papers not being implemented. I'll give you, for instance, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies.
NIPS.
NIPS. Every year during the course, topics, security-related topics, and they present this paper to government. The same thing with the Defense College. The same thing with the National Institute for Security Studies. What is government actually doing? So we've been working on theories. So that's why we've come with and say a practical approach. Get everybody together to see how do we practicalize all these theories that have been on paper. So those are, we are going to, is a one-day program that everybody will be there to see how we move this country forward.
Well, I'm a little curious as to, you know, we've talked about how, I mean, it's a good thing you're talking about the whole of society approach now, but we know that our first line of defense is the police in any single situation. It's supposed to be the police. Clearly, in many communities, we've talked about how we have so many ungoverned spaces. This particular issue we're facing now with Lakurawa, if you look at the history, we understand that, you know, the people themselves invited these people in because they thought that they could help protect them against people that were giving them problems at the time, only for them to now turn
around.
Exactly, to become the problems themselves. So if the police, for instance, if the state, through its, you know, awareness and through its own, will I say, presence of the police force, where in that community, first there would have been no need for them to look outside. So how do you think that we've paid sufficient attention to our policing system, or are we still paying lip service to it?
Well, I'll answer both in the negative and the affirmative. We've not paid sufficient attention to the police. Police is ill-equipped, underfunded, and under such circumstances, there's no way you can expect maximum performance from them. But again, if you look at this year's budget, that's why we're also talking of practical approaches. If you look at this year's budget, it's the highest so far. That shows government commitment, you know, to fighting insecurity. Beyond funding, because we should also not be talking about funding. I was watching a clip this morning, though I had watched it before, when Adamawa in the Senate
talked about
priorities. When the military will go and establish a university that's nothing related to warfare, just like, according to him, he said glorified university, instead of equipping the defense academy. Now, how was that bill treated at the National Assembly? The Senate president asked questions 3 times with a view. He himself got confused that should we allow this type of thing to go? And the names had it. It's very embarrassing for a country that is virtually at war. So we're looking at practical approaches because the same people will come back to seek our vote. Once you educate people, but because people are hungry, they don't know their rights. So we need to begin to educate them now on a practical approach that you are mortgaging your future, you are mortgaging your conscience and the future of your children. Vote for the right persons to come in, and they will be accountable to you. So on the issue of budget, like I said, it's not sufficient for us to budget trillions of naira on budget and defense, on defense and security, without monitoring how is this money spent. And the National Assembly too must play its own oversight function. Oversight does not mean that you get to get your own share of the money, but ensure that equipment are bought, that these things are properly monitored, and the sufficient money is released, because it's not sufficient to budget. You budget without release, or you release 10-20% performance. We are running three budgets now, 2023, 24, 25. And it's not done anywhere. So there has to be this oversight function. In addition to that, you recall that the 36 state governors bought into this issue of the state police.
I was just about to raise that. I just noted that down now. You know, because when you talked about the police not being well funded, part of the challenges that people have also raised is the over-centralization of the police. And how, even if it's well funded, even if all the money were pumped into one central police, there is no way it can be effective in reaching all nooks and crannies of this country. So this conversation on state police, which we seem to have in starts and stops. 1 minute, it seems there's a lot of fire, it's about to happen. Next minute, all goes very quiet. No one hears anything again. Where precisely are we? Why is it so difficult for us to take a decision?
You see, I was very excited when I heard that the 36 state governors had bought into this idea. It's not every state that can afford state police. But the ones that can afford it can start by establishing the state police after amending the laws, establishing the state police. Because no matter the criticism people have about the state police, the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. Because the people are going to be drawn from the communities, the people are even known in the communities, they know the criminal elements. They are not going to leave the Nigerian police alone. They are going to work in concert with the Nigerian police. And I think that's one of the major highlights we should be emphasizing, that establishment of state police. Because, one, these problems are local. We must get local solutions. If you look at Borno, for instance, you have the issue of Boko Haram. In the southeast, you have agitation, Biafra. You have in the northwest, banditry, north central, banditry, and all the rest of them. You cannot use a one-fit solution for all the problems. It's not going to work. So you localize the problems and localize the solutions. And that's the way to go. So when we talk of practicalizing this, we want to make sure not coming out at the end of the day that we have a paper or a position paper. We must also try to follow it up government. Luckily, we have people in government and we have people who are retired. So these are measures we tend to look at and appeal that people, major stakeholders, should come out and let us see how this country will move forward.
Well, let us hope that, that will happen. But in the meantime, the economy, some people say, what has the economy got to do with security? But we also know that when people are hungry, their propensity to, resort to crime or to things that will give them fast rewards, quick rewards, the incentive is very high. How would you say that we are making sure that the environment is inconducive to those who, decide that this is what they want to do? How are we making sure that people who really want to be gainfully employed, are seeing opportunities to do so? Are you satisfied with that area of our trying to, combat insecurity?
If you remember, when we started, we'll be concentrating our efforts on kinetic approach, thinking that buying of guns, buying of armament and everything will win this one. It's good, but it's not going to win the war. We need a combination of kinetic and non-kinetic. Like you said, the economy is bad. People are hungry, and we have different groups of criminal elements. We have people who are destined professional criminals. There's nothing you will do that would not make them go into crime. They have opportunities criminals. People who think, well, I have nothing to eat today. Then you go to steal to eat. Such ones, you can be controlled as at best, controlled. But these people who are hardened criminals, who live by crime, like all these fraudsters, 419, which is also another major challenge we're facing in this country. You see, people don't want to work, they want to make money, and all this. So it's a major problem. It's a big scourge now that young people, you see them everywhere trying to make huge money, buy cars and all this, without justifying what they are doing. So it's a major problem.
Would you say that, I think the question for me is whether you think that government is doing enough in that regard, whether they are, working hard, the policies that they are coming up with, trying to implement with regards to creating jobs. Now, I think there's even the education policy of, making sure that people have skills and things of the sort. Are you seeing sufficient aggression in that regard to, get people off the streets, get people busy, get people economically engaged?
For now, we are not seeing the results. The policies are being rolled out. Until they start implementation, they will begin to see the result. But these are good intentions if they are followed through. But the greatest problem we have, one of the greatest challenges, if we overcome this terrorism and other allied crimes, is going to be the problem of the youths. And when they get involved in politics, it becomes more dangerous because they have cash to spend. And nobody, because of the moral decadence...
The youths have cash?
Most of them who are now into all these...
crime. Oh, yeah.
419, they have so much cash. They buy cars, they display cars, they throw money. And when they get involved in politics, they are the same people who are going to occupy positions of authority. If you recall that in 1999, unfortunately, most of the people who occupied were fraudsters. People who made money through internet fraud and became traditional rulers, became National Assembly members, governors, and what have you. I pray we don't go back to that era because that's what we are heading to now. But at times I sit down and ask myself some questions. All these people being duped, what is their intention? How do they easily fall into this type of trap? It's a big problem. But if the youths now begin to get into that level of leadership, then we'll be in a more serious problem.
Some people say, are you blaming the victims? When you say, how do they get duped?
Yes, I do blame the victims because they're also greedy.
Well, in some instances, they are just, in some instances where maybe lines are stolen, people are just not as observant. These fraudsters these days, they are very, very smart with how they carry out their activities. I mean, if you to look at the one who was caught in Dubai, who happened to be a Nigerian, and he's now facing time in Hush Puppy, who was caught in Dubai. It is, all he was doing was changing IPs, very slight changes, and people who were not observant, became victims. But, I mean, I don't know what the fraction of that will be.
If somebody calls you now, that is one that amuses me so much. Somebody calls you, have a Zoom meeting, and you send a code. You don't know the person is telling you, I belong to this group. You should just discuss such a cause and don't get involved. And that's how they have people's phone numbers and collect their money. It's funny.
Well, I know that Ayo also has a few questions for you. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Malcolm. Mr. Joffo, we've talked about this issue quite a number of times, and one of the things that it always comes to for me is the people. Yes, I mean, Malcolm has already taken one right out of my mouth. It will seem like we're blaming the people. But, I mean, one of the issues we started the program with this morning is that of people scooping fuel. Now, we also know, I mean, you are not unaware, that at the time when the Boko Haram menace was so serious, there were reports that a good number of times it's because people just want to feed for each day. That is why they allow themselves to be lured into these situations and circumstances. Do you think there's enough social barricades or social provisions from government, federal, state, or local, to ward off or to stave off some of these causes of insecurity?
Well, I don't think so. If there were sufficient safety nets, I don't think when you see a situation today, people who went to school fuel got burnt. Tomorrow, the same set of people, another set of people will still go. So that shows the level of illiteracy and poverty in the society. So we need to, government doesn't need to even begin to address people. We need to talk to ourselves. And that's why we're talking of a whole society concept of the people. We need to be enlightened. We need to be conscious that there are dangers inherent in what all these people are doing. How can you continue? It's only a madman that will continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. How many times have we got our people burnt through this fuel scooping? And tomorrow it happens again. People will still go there. So it's illiteracy, and I don't think government has to do that. But because, you know, the roads are equally bad, you continue to have accidents with vehicles. If the roads were that good, I don't think all these issues will be recurring every day.
Okay, but then, again, it will seem like that is a matter for government. And the people, sounds like you're saying, are at the mercy of government. If the government does not do what it should do on some of the issues that you have raised, this situation will continue?
Well, you see, they say a hungry man is an angry man. People are bound to take risks, even at the cost of their own life. So because there's so much poverty, there's hunger in the land, people want to survive by all means, not minding. Some of them will even tell you it's better they even die in the process than continue to live. So it's both the people and the government have roles to play.
Now, what we are talking about is to tackle the issue of tackling emerging security threats. Over time, what has happened is it will seem like the security challenges we have, they change their shape, they shape shift from time to time. I go back to one of the favorite conversations between you and I, that of intelligence. Some of the things happening today, a good number of people have said, oh, this is where it's likely to end up. We've had Laddie Thompson on our program a number of times, and he said, look, I've been talking about the same thing for about 15 years, and it will seem like no one is paying attention. So how come these things happen? These emerging threats, as we call them, they are emerging right there in our faces, and we just wait until they catch up on us. Or so it seems.
No. We're talking of emerging threats. You see, like fuel accident is not an emerging threat. But when you talk of like Ukarawa and all those groups, these people have been profiled even before they came to the foreknowledge of the people. They've already been profiled. The greatest problem we have is with the action agencies, for no fault of theirs. If you get intelligence and send to the action agency, and they don't have capacity or capability to deal with this, who do you blame? And that's why I said that government is also trying in its effort to eradicate these crimes by making more provisions. But like I said, there's a caveat. It's not just making budgetary provision, but it must be supervised and ensure that the money is used for what it is meant for. That is very key in our fight against this terrorism. And that's why we are calling up. I expect, except of course that you are in Lagos, we expect you to be at Yaradua Center on Thursday, at least, to be part of the process. Because you people who are the media are among the people that even shaping the society. So we need every hand to be on deck to come and see how we solve these problems.
Well, I know that there will always be a lot for us to talk about in terms of security, and we certainly will. I don't know, can you just tell us this issue, this spate of kidnapping? I know that but almost every part of the country, has fears of kidnapping. Is something, is it in the northeast, is it in the northwest? No area is spared. Even Abuja here, people are afraid of that particular. Would you say that we've been able to crack it?
We've not been able to crack it because the more you fight it, the more people go into it because it has become a franchise. It's the easiest way to make money now. You can't go on robbery. How much cash are you going to? But when you get this, when you do kidnap and make more money, people are encouraged to go more into it. But the worrying aspect now is that they don't stop at extorting money, but they kill their victims. Mm-hmm. That is also very worrisome. And you don't blame the security agencies. Mm-hmm. You don't blame the family.
The security
that
agencies. Why not the security agencies? Who do we then blame?
If you blame the security agencies, in the course of the process of trying to release that person and the person is killed, how do you explain it? And you cannot stop a family who is eager to ensure that their family member is rescued from doing what they are doing. So it's a major problem that needs some balancing, you know. But I can tell you that more than 70% or 80% of these kidnaps, they are tracked and the victims are arrested. The ones that killed the honorable member in Onitsha, they've been arrested, you know. But it's sad that people continue to lose their life in this process.
Well, we sincerely hope that we are able to surmount our challenges, and we certainly will be looking forward to your conference when it eventually comes up. We have to thank you so much for lending your voice to our conversation this morning. Mr. Mike Ejiofor is a former director with the Department of State Services. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's where we leave the program this morning, but not before we take your feedback. And we see this one from Professor Nakena, who talks about tanker fires. He says to curb petrol tanker fires, there must be citizens' education on the dangers of scooping fuel from falling tankers, strict driver training, proper vehicle maintenance, advanced safety features like overfuel prevention devices, implementing strict loading and unloading procedures, designated safe unloading areas, emergency response plans, and enforcing regulations regarding transportation of all flammable liquids.
Festus Akinboyewa has this one. It's good that Kano State government declared emergency on education and prioritize out-of-school children. Other states should emulate Kano State and prioritize primary enrollment to reduce the humongous number of our out-of-school children. Well, that's the show today. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
And I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Do have a great day.